Some readers like you and me, we're there for the world. We crave for that sense of exploration, of endless possibility. Of course, we also enjoy good characters, compelling dialogue, beautiful poetics. But what we enjoy most is being co-authors of the stories we read. We like to daydream, and we're good at it. We wonder and we wonder. We automatically create our own scenarios and characters just for them to dance in this world we're reading about. We can't help it. It's in our nature to daydream. Our imagination gets the better of us. So as much as we enjoy novels that start with high stakes and fast-paced action and reasons to care about the main character, above all, we're looking for books that quickly give us a place to be, a place where our imaginations can bloom and thrive. We enjoy the world-building heavy introductions. We don't even mind the descriptions, we devour them. Are you one of us? If so, I am delighted to present to you the first few paragraphs of Erin Morgenstern's The Night Circus. The circus arrives without warning. No announcements preceded, no paper notices on downtown posts and billboards, no mentions or advertisements in local newspapers. It is simply there, when yesterday it was not. The towering tents are striped in white and black, no golds and crimsons to be seen. No color at all, save for the neighboring trees and the grass of the surrounding fields. Black and white stripes on grey sky, countless tents in varying shapes and sizes, with an elaborate wrought iron fence encasing them in a colorless world. Even what little ground is visible from outside is black or white, painted or powdered or treated with some other circus trick. But it is not open for business, not just yet. Within hours, everyone in town has heard about it. By afternoon, the news has spread several towns over. Word of mouth is a more effective method of advertisement than typeset words and exclamation points on paper pamphlets or posters. It is impressive and unusual news, the sudden appearance of a mysterious circus. People marvel at the staggering height of the tallest tents. They stare at the clock that sits just inside the gates that no one can properly describe. And the black sign painted in white letters that hang upon the gates, the one that reads, "Opens at nightfall, closes at dawn." What kind of circus is only open at night? People ask. No one has a proper answer, yet as dusk approaches there is a substantial crowd of spectators gathering outside the gates. You are amongst them, of course. Your curiosity got the better of you, as curiosity is wont to do. You stand in the fading light, the scarf around your neck pulled up against the chilly evening breeze, waiting to see for yourself exactly what kind of circus only opens once the sun sets. The circus looks abandoned and empty, but you think perhaps you can smell caramel wafting through the evening breeze, beneath the crisp scent of autumn leaves, a subtle sweetness at the edges of the cold. The sun disappears completely beyond the horizon and the remaining luminosity shifts from dusk to twilight. The people around you are growing restless from waiting, a sea of shuffling feet murmuring about abandoning the endeavor in search of somewhere warmer to pass the evening. You yourself are debating departing when it happens. First, there is a popping sound. It is barely audible over the wind and conversation, a soft noise like a kettle about to boil for tea. Then comes the light. All over the tents, small lights begin to flicker, as though the entirety of the circus is covered in particularly bright fireflies. The waiting crowd quiets as it watches this display of illumination. Someone near you gasps. A small child claps his hand with glee at the sight. Then the iron gates shudder and unlock, seemingly by their own volition. They swing outward, inviting the crowd inside. Now the circus is open. Now you may enter. This introduction plays me like a fiddle. There are no characters, no stakes, no punching, no chasing. It's pure world building, and it's the most memorable introduction I've read in years. It's made for people like me, perhaps people like us. So dress appropriately. For today we're exploring the Night Circus and giving special attention to its pure world building segments. What makes good stories good? And more specifically, why some fictional worlds really capture me, really capture my whole imagination? I don't believe there's an answer to this question. I believe this question is a journey. It's a way to approach good art, like a sponge, trying to pay more attention, be more careful, spend more time with it, and learn as much as we can. And this is the whole point of this series here, the World Building Tower. This is my artistic research that I make public and I share with you. And hey, each of those videos takes me 20 to 30 hours to make, and in 20 to 30 minutes you can learn most of what I found out as I researched. It's a good deal. Just a small note before we get started, this episode here will contain a bit more text than usual, but for good reason. I find those poetics irresistible, and if you're gonna learn how to seduce, enchant, entice, it might as well be from the best. As I said before, some readers like to co-author the books that they read in their minds, and there's nothing like an open and interesting world building to help them do it. Worlds that feel alive and multiple. You feel like you're reading one story out of infinite that could happen in that place. But Erin Morgenstern goes one step above. She literally invites the reader to step into her world. You step into a bright, open courtyard, surrounded by striped tents. Curving pathways along the perimeter lead away from the courtyard, turning into unseen mysteries dotted with twinkling lights. There are vendors traversing the crowd around you, selling refreshments and oddities, creations flavored with vanilla and honey, chocolate and cinnamon. A contortionist in a sparkling black costume twists on a platform nearby, bending her body into impossible shapes. A juggler tosses globes of black and white and silver high into the air, where they seem to hover before falling again into his hands, his attentive spectators applauding. All bathed in glowing light. The light emanates from a large bonfire in the center of the courtyard. As you walk closer, you can see that it sits in a wide black iron cauldron, balanced on a number of clawed feet. Where the rim of a cauldron would be, it breaks into long strips of curling iron, as though it had been melted and pulled apart like taffy. The curling iron continues up until it curls back into itself, weaving in and out amongst the other curls, giving it the cage-like effect. The flames are visible in the gaps between and rising slightly above. They are obscured only at the bottom, so it is impossible to tell what is burning, if it is wood or coal or something else entirely. The flames are not yellow or orange, but white as snow as they dance. The Night Circus alternates between a more traditional story with a guiding conflict, a regular plot, main characters, a climax, all that stuff, and those short, pure world building moments that navigate us through this place where the characters are living the main plot. But we're not there through the lens or viewpoint of any particular character. We, the readers, we're lost there like any visitor would. I'd like to focus on those world building bits, and let's take this one I just read as our first example. Let's see how open or how well defined Mrs. Morgenstern made her world. Here's the full text of what I just read, perhaps a bit too small to read, but follow me on an abstraction rabbit hole here. Just trust me, I'll get you somewhere interesting. First, I'd like to propose that all of the text is using piggybacking to center us. This is clearly a circus, and we all have our own preconceptions of what happens there. If you're new to the channel, the concept of piggybacking is something that I invoke quite a lot. I was first introduced to it by Magic the Gathering's lead designer Mark Rosewater, and it's a simple idea. If you were to create a fantasy world that was 100% original, truly unique in all of its facets, it would be overwhelming for any new audience. But if you create a world that's 0% original, then So what does Magic the Gathering and so many other stories do? Piggybacking. They base their fantastical structures in cultural structures we already have, so we have a lot to work with from the beginning. A magical school will have teachers and classes and corridors like any other school, just some aspects of it will be magical. A magical ancient Egypt land might have its own unique traits, but it also might have pharaohs and pyramids, things that we've heard about before and we know how to interpret immediately. The same goes for a magic circus. By being clear on the cultural structure it references, the Night Circus allows us to paint a much sharper mental image. We all have a decent idea of what to expect inside a circus. Then, and just then, we can ask ourselves, what is different here? What in this circus is more than a circus? So let's get back to the text. Besides the overall piggybacking that happens all over the extract, I'd like to focus on two different segments that bring different world-building energies to the table. Let's start with this first bit in violet. This is the author allowing us to co-create the world with her. The information here is specific enough so that we can see it in our heads, but vague enough so that each of our mental images will look completely different. Expressions like impossible shapes and oddities are open to interpretation. Even the performers we see, though we have a sense of what they're wearing, are left to our imagination. This is the author actively inviting us to create our own unique circus. But just a couple of lines after that, we find a completely different energy. In the orange bit here at the bottom, the author shifts gears and takes full control over her world building. This is no invitation to co-creation. Here we find specificity. If before she relied on piggybacking for us to fill out the details, this cauldron has a very specific look, and she wants us to imagine it very much as she does. The clawed feet, the edges curling up like taffy, even the color of the flame, that's the uniqueness of this particular circus. And I find that the balance between those two energies, plus the overall cultural reference, work very well here. There are parts that we can all agree on, parts that the author invites the reader to co-create, and the unique gift that the author can bring to the table. With those energies in mind, and using the same color scheme, let's explore another world-building segment in the book. In this tent, suspended high above you, there are people. Acrobats, trapeze artists, aerialists, illuminated by dozens of round glowing lamps hanging from the top of the tent like planets or stars. There are no nets. You watch the performance from this precarious vantage point, directly below the performance with nothing in between. There are girls in feathered costumes who spin at various heights, suspended by ribbons that they can manipulate. Marionettes that control their own strings. Normal chairs with legs and backs act as trapezes. Round spheres that resemble bird cages rise and descend, while one or more aerialists move from within the spheres to without, standing on the top or hanging from the bars on the bottom. In the center of the tent, there is a man in a tuxedo, suspended by one leg that is tied with a silver cord, hands clasped behind his back. He begins to move extremely slowly. His arms reach out from the sides, first one and then the other, until they hang below his head. He starts to spin faster and faster until he is only a blur at the end of a rope. He stops suddenly and he falls. The audience dives out of the way below him, clearing a space of bare, hard ground below. You cannot bear to watch, you cannot look away. Then he stops at eye level with the crowd, suspended by the silver rope that now seems endlessly long. Top hat undisturbed on his head, arms calmly by his sides. As the crowd regains its composure, he lifts a gloved hand and removes his hat. Bending at the waist, he takes a dramatic, inverted bow. See? The dance between vague and specific. Here you can create your own circus. Here I invite you to step into mine. Back and forth, performing, applauding, performing again. What a great inspiration for a world building exercise. As you folks probably guessed, today's exercise is about those three energies. Let's apply them to our worlds. If you are already working on a specific world, this exercise is a great opportunity to hone a part of it. We will write one of those world building focus segments. Let's say something between half a page and 1 page long. Your characters can be there, that's fine, but it's not time for them to shine. It's time for the world to shine. Before you even start writing, be clear on what is the cultural structure you are piggybacking from, just like Miss Morgenstern did with the circus. We already talked a bunch about piggybacking here on the channel. I'm sure you folks already got the hang of it, and if not, I'm gonna put a video here in the cards and also in the doobly-doo below. And we'll add both violet and orange bits to our text. Parts that are inviting co-creation and parts that are unabashedly ours. They will share a linguistic vibe, but they will portray very different levels of detailing. And with that, we go to the last part of the video, which is my take on this exercise. Not the right answer or anything, just part of my personal journey to try to become a better writer. And I encourage you to put your text in the comments below as well, because it's lovely to see writers commenting on each other's text and asking questions. It's a lovely interaction. So let's do this, let's do this. As I mentioned many a time, I aspire to write as delicately as Mrs. Morgenstern, so I'm gonna try to apply that. And I must admit, as I was writing this episode, I was also playing 80 Days, another inspiring piece of writing with incredible world building. I went a bit more steampunk than I normally would because of that latter reference. So let's have a look at my take. I'm gonna color the segments just like I did with the Night Circus, and I'm gonna add some comments in the end. A soft bell dings. "Dear passengers, welcome aboard," announces a metallic voice through the copper speakers overhead. "This is your captain speaking. My name is Aurelus Kakesh, and in the name of Music Box, I'd like to welcome you aboard this flight." Flight? I ask myself. Well, they need to call it something. "If this is your first time boarding a golden vessel, I'd like to thank you for your trust in this brand new form of traveling. And I'd like to remind you that we have ISO 9000 certification in regards to security and comfort." The reminder further increases my unease. Since I sat down, I have the eerie feeling that I am inside a giant version of a Swiss watch mechanism. The corridor is made of huge circular golden mechanical parts, taller than houses, that interlace and roll around each other seamlessly. Such precision would generally feel oddly satisfying, but in such abundance, it morphs into disquiet. I grip my cane tighter. "Before we set off, I'd like to give you a couple of safety instructions. Please remain seated while the seatbelt lights are on. If you happen to be heading to the lavatories when the lights flash, for your own safety, we ask you to return to your seat immediately." I look down at my own fastened seatbelt. It is ordinary enough compared to the rest of the experience, if not a little too ornamented. The top clasp displays an embossed spinning wheel and needle, the symbol of the company. This is a strictly non-smoking flight, and that encompasses all types of cigars, including floral cigars. I hear grumbles all over the vessel. Please do not insist. We will now deploy. As the captain continues, I hear a clicking sound below me. A small hatch opens on the floor right in front of my feet. Our memory devices. Please remain seated. A small pole emerges from the hole and makes its way up, accompanied by a sound like a drawbridge. At its tip sits a brass sculpture of a human face, a middle-aged man to be more precise. Though the face is no bigger than my fist, the features are so meticulously crafted that I can see details. The uneven eyebrows, the pores all over its diminutive nose, the individual strands of hair clumping into locks. With one last well-oiled click, the small golden man stops precisely at my eye level and stares at me with holes for eyes. As soon as I lean to have a better look, the two eye sockets flash an intense blue light. I shudder. The memory procedure should be in operation. Please remain calm, the captain says, but he is far away. The blue-gazed face still scrutinizes me, but I also feel I'm in Budapest, at the Central Market Hall, just like that time 20-odd years ago. Something smells good. Was that the fabled goulash? If you experience a bad memory, please raise your hands and our cabin crew will promptly assist you, continues the captain, but now he feels like he's the dream, and the Hungarian chatter around me is reality. So that was my attempt. What do you think? With the first two short paragraphs, I tried to establish this cultural reference I'm piggybacking from, a captain's pre-flight speech. But just after that, I tried to add some mystery, showing you that this flight wouldn't be what you normally expect. This paragraph here portrays the vessel with some detail, like colors, shapes, movements, but it's free enough so that each reader will picture a different vessel. Same with the seatbelts and cigars. The info I give is noteworthy, but not thoroughly detailed. At the very end, I take control over the world building. The memory machine, including its strange golden face, is described in way more detail. Hopefully, we all have a similar mental image this time around. I wanted this whole scene to evoke curiosity. Yes, there's a big mystery here, perhaps even some danger, but I wanted it to feel adventurous rather than oppressive. Hope I succeeded. Mrs. Morgenstern, if you ever watch this video, it would be my pleasure to have a conversation with you. I really admire your work. And here's something I never tried before. Like many other times when I first tried this exercise, I didn't really succeed. I wrote something interesting, but a bit away from the constraints I was applying for myself. It's a bit too long, it's a bit too detailed, but it's an interesting and mysterious scene about a magical planetarium. So I'm releasing that for my patrons of all tiers. I'm still learning how to patron, so I hope that's something desirable and interesting. If you're a patron, you're gonna see a post over there. It's a small thank you for the giant encouragement you give me. Thank you so much, folks. Thank you so much for supporting me. I can't believe I have patrons. And if you're not in the financial position to support this channel, that's absolutely fine. It's cool. I love making those videos for you as well. But this time around, with this video specifically, if you folks could help me share it, I would appreciate it, because I am almost getting monetized on YouTube. And I'm not talking about big money, I'm talking about like $1 a month, okay? But it's a symbolic step that I never achieved. I've been doing YouTube for 12 years. Oh my God, and I never got there. And yes, this means something. It's a little ritual that I will finally complete after over a decade. So every little help counts. Commenting and liking and sharing with a friend really help out. Oh my God, 12 years. I can't believe I'm close to achieving this. So with that, I leave you for today and I'll see you for the next video. Bye.